Let's talk to Lucy White, public policy specialist, though, because not only are they failing economically, they're also failing when it comes to the small boats crisis. I don't really call them small boats anymore, Lucy, because they're quite big boats, aren't they? But let's face it, you know, this problem is going from bad to worse. We've got Starmer claiming yesterday that we've got plenty of places we can put these migrants, loads of houses, we're going to move them out of hotels. We've got the Epping problem, where ordinary residents are sick to death of seeing, you know, unaccompanied men, undocumented men wandering around in the town. The same in Diss, up in Norfolk. I mean, where's this going to end?
Yeah, good morning, Mike.
Morning.
That's a very good question. When is it going to end? I think also what's quite interesting today, take note of this, the 22nd of July. We've just seen Labour's new immigration reforms for skilled visas has come in. So I think, they've seen that the numbers of small boat crossings is now plus 46,000 this year alone. And now they're trying to reduce the actual number of skilled visas by £100,000.
Right.
Sorry, 100,000 visas a year reduced. So perhaps I can just run through those sort of 6 points on those reforms, just
Yeah.
because I think it's quite interesting to touch upon. So the first thing is now to have a skilled visa, the Home Office is saying that an individual needs to be university educated, whereas previously they just had to have A levels.
Yeah.
And those on a lower skilled labour visa now cannot bring dependents, which will help to reduce the number of migrants coming in.
Yeah.
The threshold for those to have a skilled visa is now £41,700. So that's the salary that you need to be on in order to come here. They have completely scrapped the health and care worker visa. And in addition, they are going to increase the English level requirement from level B1 to B2, which is essentially you need to be have a level of not quite fluency, but efficiency in speaking the language. But my concern is, Mike, even with all these reforms, yes, even if you bring down the number of visas by 100,000 a year, there's far too many. So in 2023, there were over 300,000 visas. So I think the problem is, of course, illegal migration, but the underlying huge, elephant in the room is legal migration.
The problem as well is that the system has been abused so much over the years, hasn't it? Just a little bit of breaking news before we carry on. Kemi Badenoch apparently is set to reshuffle her shadow cabinet, we're hearing this morning. So James Cleverly, who previously served in government as the Foreign Secretary and Home Secretary, is expected to return to the front bench as part of the changes. We'll bring you more on that as it happens. But what I was going to say to you, I'm sorry to interrupt you there, Lucy, was we know a lot of these visas have been sort of obtained, shall we say, by deception, where you've got people being hired as, expert workers in kebab shops and people who have been sort of brought in as DJs and people who say that they're, especially skilled in, foot massage and all this kind of rubbish. And they've been able to get into the country and bring other people with them. There's a story in the Telegraph today about how Pakistani migrants have been tricking their way into Britain with fake visa documents, which they're basically buying for up to £50,000 a time on the black market.
Yeah, exactly. I read that as well this morning. I genuinely do think that we need a blanket ban on migrants coming in from Pakistan because they just cause us nothing but problems. We recently had an issue in the Home Office where an asylum seeker worker called Imran Mullah was seen to be granting asylum applications in exchange for £2,000 to £3,000 per application.
Yeah.
There's embedded within the Home Office as well is corruption, but also incompetence. So if we look at this case, there was a story in the Telegraph where basically on an application from Pakistan, someone had literally created a fake hospital name and said that they were getting a job at this hospital. But the Home Office, being so incompetent, didn't even realise this, and they just granted visas.
Right.
So I think personally, every single visa or asylum application that has been granted by the Home Office from 2018, they should all be revoked for absolutely everyone and reviewed, because we've let so many people into our country who have committed fraud, and they have no right to be here.
Exactly right. And many of those applications as well, because the Telegraph have highlighted them, have been written in such bad English that anybody just with a cursory kind of glance over it, you'd go, well, sorry, hang on a second, this is supposed to be a skilled worker coming to work in Britain who clearly has no command of the English language. It's actually gobbledygook. You know, surely they don't seem to have any critical faculty at all. They just go, strike it out, nope, nope, nope. You know, any normal person would do that, but not the Home Office.
Yeah, exactly. And you would even think today with, modern technology and AI or machine learning that even a computer would be able to detect these mistakes.
Yeah.
But again, I think it's just another sign of failure from the Home Office. And as I say, I would completely scrap and abolish many parts of the Home Office. I think Yvette Cooper has a lot, she has a lot to do with this in terms of the blame. She has to take accountability. Why on earth is this happening? And what is shocking to me, Mike, is if we go back to 2023, this year for me is very pivotal in terms of the gross misconduct in the Home Office. So net migration was 906,000. That's just shy of a million.
Yeah.
And if you look at the figures, 96,000 EU migrants had left. And coming into our country in 2023, there were over 1 million non-EU nationals. And those non-EU nationals, they're not from countries that are, quite compatible and
Right.
Western and civilized like the US and Australia. No. The top 5 countries that were granted citizenship or visas, etc., that came in 2023, in ranking, the top 5 were India, Nigeria, the Philippines, Zimbabwe, and Pakistan.
Yeah.
And so people wonder, why is there an influx of third world, nationals in our country? And that is precisely why, because Priti Patel, who was the former Home Secretary, under her former points-based immigration system, they literally lifted the cap for non-EU skilled visas, which is insane. There used to be a maximum of about 20,000 visas for non-EU. And in 2023, there were around 200,000 people coming in from non-EU countries. So that's 10 times the amount. So I think Priti Patel has a lot to account for. I think she's a large part of why this country's in the situation it is. And if I were Kemi Badenoch right now doing a cabinet reshuffle, I would remove Priti Patel far out of sight, because this is, completely unforgivable, quite frankly. And as you said, Mike, a lot of these skilled work visas include, magicians or chefs and cooks.
It's bonkers.
Insanity.
Yeah, the whole thing is absolutely insane, as you say. Great to see you, though, Lucy. Thank you very much indeed. Lucy White, their public policy specialist, on the insanity of this work visa business and the insanity and the craziness of the situation now with migrant hotels, people demonstrating outside them, people having had enough of the numbers of people coming in. The sheer numbers are just swamping the local communities of this country, and people are getting sick to death of it. And that's why they are causing what I'm calling a bit of a people's rebellion.